So something that was on the screen before I changed what's currently on the screen were the words hate, desperation, and hunger. I want to see the real power that Black people are alive in the world, worldwide. And a fine distinction is there is the ones of us who we're coded for this. It's already done, okay? It's not something you necessarily work to become. And I don't mean that. Anyway, you know who you are. So most Black people, when I say that, like the ones who are either not coded or they're coded, but they've been poisoned, is, girl, please, that's impossible. Well, good luck. Right? Of course, that's with anything. When Ford wanted to bring forward a car because humans were using horses to get around, people was like, what? This man is great. What? So any and everything now that we love and can't live without, color, TV, just all the things, humans were like, hell no, fuck no, shit no. So I say that to those of you who are coded and you know you're called, that's how people are going to respond to you. It comes with the territory. Congratulations. And even learning how to appreciate that, love that, versus being ready to quit, because the people who are among the masses, this is what they are. It's been like this before you and I got here, okay? Ford said, if I would have asked them what they wanted, they would have said, we want faster horses. I say that to say the masses don't know what they want. They won't admit what they want. They're designed to live inside of all the programming for the masses. Now, that is changing because so much is rapidly happening with the expansion of consciousness due to AI, due to the fact that you can see what's going on with that grandmother in Thailand now because we have TikTok. You can see what's going on with those women in Korea and those women in London and those women in that obscure village in Africa because we have TikTok now, okay? Whereas before, you didn't know what was going on in another country, in a village, in a province, some obscure place in the world. So I have very much been tasked with being a part of bringing to life the impossible. I'm going to reiterate that for myself. I have very much been tasked with facilitating the impossible. So I'm speaking, whoever is listening, right? And particularly speaking to those of you who cannot not. So I have been living in the world of softness. And so much has come through that it's disturbing. It's very disturbing. And it lives in the collective. It lives in the collective unconscious, lives in the conscious. And in order to bring to life the power that only Black people have, those of us who are coded are absolutely required to be willing to traverse the things that we don't want to traverse. We're designed to do it, okay? To traverse the things we do not want to traverse. Which is why I have disgust on the screen. I don't want to do that. Get on my nerves. So annoying. You fucking bastard. Like all that. He stinks. She stinks. I don't like her attitude. No. Because anywhere you abandon ship, that's where it ends. It ends there, which means you can only play at the terrain where you abandoned. You can only play there. So everything you do, everything you manifest, everything you create is going to be birthed from wherever you abandon ship. Okay? And in order to, please hear me, in order to bring to life this power the world has yet to see, and even more personally, in order for you to stand in what you know, in order for you to be front-facing with who you actually are, versus contorting yourself in any environment. In order for you to even be able to be in such intimacy with that singular stream that runs through you all the time. You were born with it. It's there. It's always been there. It never leaves. You might muddy it with addiction and busyness and school, and you might muddy it with things, but it's always there humming. And what's this, the practice, the skill that's required, and where terror is and fear and whatever you call it, shame, all the things, is going to be you being able to traverse everything that prohibits you being in complete oneness with the stream. And everything you're going to come up with is some kind of version of fear, shame, and whatever other language you personally would use, terrified, whatever language you personally use when you have found yourself getting closer to that stream that's been with you since birth, that knows exactly what to do, but you've been beat out of listening to it. And so and this is part of what creates an inner war. So then we end up creating all these outer wars, okay? So I want to bring this into the relationship with melanin dominant men and women because of what's come up in the land of softness. How cruel we are. How disconnected we are from who we are. We are so cruel. And we know this. In order for you to be cruel to me, you have to already be being cruel to yourself. There's no way you could be well with yourself, treating yourself well, seeing yourself in high regard, loving, valuing you, and then come out here and treat me like trash. It's impossible. It can't happen. So the double hurt is that you're cruel with yourself, so therefore naturally you're going to be cruel with me and everybody else, your children, the people in your life, your lovers, your husbands, your parents, your whoever. And here is the elaboration. Cruelty is not what you may call blatant cruelty, like something that's blatantly mean, or blatantly, when I say cruel, I don't even mean this. I mean, please hear me. When you know who you are, and or you're in relationship with somebody where you see them, the real them, the essence of them, and you either withhold who you are for whatever pretty sounding reason you would give yourself, if you were questioned about what you know you're doing, you withhold yourself, and then in the withholding of yourself, you are going to project another self to be in relationship with me. And then depending on who I'm being, and all of this with us is happening so subtly and unconsciously all the time in our relationships. And this is part of how we generate wars with each other. I see who you are, I see who I am, but I withhold who I am because if I were to actually be who I am, that would call you forth in a certain way, or that would shine a certain light. Maybe I don't want to deal with that. Maybe that feels uncomfortable. Maybe that feels like whatever. It could feel like it. If it's you and your mom, you might not be comfortable with that. If it's you and a man, if it's you and one of your children, your child you see something about your child that reminds you of something you abandoned in yourself. The cruelty happens everywhere, all the time, with everybody. When we are cruel with ourselves, withholding ourselves, lying, and withholding is a version of lying. And so these are examples of cruelty, how we're cruel. And then, so because you, never mind everybody else, never mind society, just you withhold. And so everywhere you go, you're living in a withholding state. Everywhere. You're going on dates, you're at home cooking, you're even processing content online, and you don't allow it to come in because you live in a state of withholding. You're having this conversation with your mom, somebody in your class, somebody in the community. Your whole life is a life of withholding. So there's a kind of inner war that's always going on. So then everything you bump up against in the outer world, where other people are having their own wars that you happen to sink into, whether we're talking about, Trump or racism, or, you see something going on somewhere, you can only interact with it based on the you that lives a life of withholding. You can never deal with the matter from a powerful place. So you can't even get into a powerful conversation really because you live a life of withholding. And you cannot deal with the intense energies that will be required for you to interact with to actually bring forward the world-changing work. Speak the world-changing message. Be the walking embodiment of real power. You can't do it because your whole being is living one of withholding and projecting this more acceptable, likable being who doesn't shake the boat, who gets to look good, who gets to keep the job, who gets to not look like an angry Black woman, who all the things. So you see how you and I, because I include myself in this, being willing to navigate intense environments with each other deliberately, consciously, which is why I put here conscious war and discuss on the path to world-changing power. Because this is you and I deliberately deciding to use our relationships as a crucible. And inside of this relationship, we must be willing to traverse the most intense energies that trigger shame in us, that require we look at why is this a shame for me, that trigger who we think we are and who we think we are not, and all of the mortal whatevers around, I'm smart, I'm good, I don't do that. Or even projections you have onto other people about what this is and what that is, because what is going to happen? And we've seen this in elementary ways, so it's like so much of it is on the wall if you're paying attention. What we commonly know in the culture around a white rage. And when white people see Black people doing good, they attack, right? They create some law that, is supposed to be for the people. Like I was talking to my mom, what was it, yesterday, and she was saying how Trump and them wants to institute some law that people who commit violent crimes go to jail in El Salvador or something like that. And that's really coded to go toward Black men. That's actually for Black men. And one could say, well, yeah, nigga, right? You committing violent crimes, throw them niggas in jail, right? So that's one angle of it, yes. And man, that shit goes deep, deep, deep. One, why are these men committing violent crimes? Okay, that's one angle. That wasn't the main angle I wanted to bring forth. The other angle was the way the assertion of power, because there's so many ways to assert power, right? Violence is an assertion of power. It's just not a, typical desirable assertion of power, okay? Whenever Black people start to assert power, so an example of that could be historically Black prosperous communities that have been burned down. That's an assertion of power right there, right? Again, there are multiple ways to assert power. And so essentially, historically, white people find a way, directly, indirectly, to ensure that any kind of uh, expression of power by Black people is immediately stifled in some kind of a way, whether a new law is implemented, playing on underdeveloped beings, because so many layers here. So much of us is underdeveloped emotionally, which is why it is so well known that all you got to do is make Black people mad and you can grab their energy. Like you can grab all their attention just by making them mad. Like do something related to race, like put something up there related to race, and they're all going to get involved, and then we can harness their energy and attention, and right, because for so long we have refused, okay, to embody the power that only Black people have. This is why white people can take your power. This is why white people think. This is why they think what they think, because this is why they can even this is why this whole thing can do it the way it does, because and this goes back to the cruelty. This is a dynamic, multi-part conversation. Remember I said earlier that before you're cruel to me, you're cruel to yourself. So we see how cruel we are to each other, how cruel men are to women, how cruel women are to men, and how it just seeps out in so many things. The content we create, how we engage with each other everywhere, all the things, yes? So part of the cruelty is that we have abandoned ourselves, okay? We have abandoned the power that only we are. What does that abandonment look like? It looks like you not expressing who you are. It looks like you withholding who you actually are, which for us, we are deeply erotic. We are like source erotic, the most pristine. Like we don't even know what it looks like. We would punish each other if we saw ourselves be our true raw states in the world. We would police each other. That's how much we've abandoned ourselves and have become cruel with ourselves. Okay. So we celebrate inverted cruelty. I'm going to park that and back it up. And okay. So in the abandoning of self, in the abandoning of yourself, you abandon yourself. This is for men and women, okay? In the abandoning of yourself, there's a self that needs to come out here into the world, right? There's a you that's going to your job. There's a you that's raising your kids. There's a you that's, sitting down having dinner with your mom or with your kids and going to run errands. There's a you that's doing that, right? So the you that's doing that is the disconnected you. There's a you that comes out here and deals with the world. And it's not the real you. So you come out here as an untrue you, as a masked you, at the family barbecue, out to dinner, at Target, creating your content. It's a masked you. So it's a level of self-inflicted cruelty. And so when you look at anybody there out in the world, you're going to assess accordingly. Now, most of us are not in admission, ownership, awareness of ourselves. So when we look out in the world, we look out as a projection. We don't look out from a place of self-responsibility to say, that's a free woman. That's a authentically expressed man. I can see the parts in them that I've repressed in myself. Most of us are not at that level of maturity. Most of us will look at another and clown. That's most of us will clown. So, and we do this worldwide, right? Just plop in all the reasons why we do this. Because of religion, because of abuse and disassociation as children, because bullying, the primary ways that we disassociate from ourselves. And so we come out here in the world and we move as a body, if you will. When I say a body, I mean a collective body. I mean all Black people. And I don't mean that literally, because obviously it's not all of us, but the majority of us, is we come out here and we move as a collective body. And we're constantly policing each other, and we keep each other like, this is what it means to be Black. This is what it looks like to be Black. This is how we move. This is how we live. This is right. And when we start to see some of us live outside of what Black is supposed to look like, which, by the way, there's been a quiet collective agreement that there's a very narrow idea of what Blackness is. We eat like this, we live here, we dress like this, etc. And anything outside of that, especially if it starts to express who we really are, we will start to punish each other for it. Okay, it's like a spanking. And so, as I was pointing to earlier about this whole thing gets to stay together for multiple reasons. And when I talk about bringing forth the world-changing power that only we have, one of the reasons why it can stay as is because we agree. And one of the ways that we enforce that is we judge and celebrate according to how well we do not show our Black power. And I don't mean like Black Panther power. I mean our raw state, which would have us being these massively creative. We would just dominate the world, period. It would happen on its own, okay? And it wouldn't be this masculine assertion dominance. It would be what would happen naturally if we stopped masking and policing each other to stay inside of white ideas of what success is, or human is, or what is right. So, for example, we praise each other, or we get so much celebration when we get married, get a house in the suburbs. Listen, and this is not even about not doing that. It's about asking yourself, is that really the way for me? Does my true self want that? Not the me that's looking for a sense of something, but in my softest, rawest, purest state, do I want that? Because again, because we're so disconnected from ourselves and we're so much looking to belong, and we live so scarce every single day, and our decision making, we even live scarce, meaning we're not fully in our bodies. We're like this. Our breathing is like this. So we're not even fully inhabiting our bodies. And so I could go further and further and further. I want to say this. So where does one start to practice being in relationship with other Black people who are bringing forth the power only Black people have? This world-changing power. I want to reiterate, because it's so easy to be so intrigued by the topic that you think it's for you, when it's not necessarily. Again, I'm talking to those of us who cannot not. You cannot not engage in your world-changing work. You cannot not. When you cannot not, you're coded a particular way. And in order for you to withstand the gravitational pull, AKA crabs in a barrel, in order for you to withstand what you could call attack, in order for you to withstand even your internal, because this cruelty, this war, is happening on the inside. The part of you that knows all the time, but to actually live from the knowing will require a responsibility that perhaps up till now you've been unwilling to stand in. So because you disconnect from the you that you know, because you've been unwilling to traverse the difficulty of living from what you know, you come out here and you project something that gets you the clout, the money, the whatever it is that has you feel a version of safety and belonging. or able to get what you want to get. So I don't really know what's next. I know my aim. I know what the deep pull call is, it's done, it's here. And the intensities of all energies, the sexual ones, and everything else that you would name that are intense: predator, evil, all of them, horror, all of them, all the things that everything that arrests you and lock you everywhere. You and I are required to navigate all of those. Now, I've lived a very fringe life, so this has been my life. So this is not particularly new for me. Now, there's always refinement. And I'm talking about it publicly for those of you who cannot not, and know that there's such a traversing, and so much of this is going to be you admitting who you are and letting that stream no matter what. And in part of, coming into who you are is going to be removing all the obstructions that prohibit you from letting him live out in the world. And it's intense. It's very intense. And this is why, if you are not truly coded like this, it's not for you. And if you are coded, it's exactly for you. You're built for it. I am looking to host a combination of parties, gatherings. The name that I'm playing with is Deep and Subtle, or maybe just deep, or maybe just subtle, in the Amsterdam area, London, Houston. Playa del Carmen is on my radar for at least the beginning stages, because we're going to be entering a terrain that I particularly have, not in a group setting at least. I've navigated lots of intense erotic energies in relationship with Black men. And this is an evolved, world-changing angle, though, this time. Evolved, world-changing angle. Hi, Empress, you're back. What if I'm mean and that's who I am? It'd be great to find out. Well, you tell me if it would be great for you. Okay. In your softest state. And to say a little bit about your softest state. Your softest state is where you are well fed. You're well fed with what you most want. Most of us are hungry, starving, which is why originally it said here on the screen, hate, desperation, and hunger. Because a large part of our cruelty is we're starving. Because part of what happens, as I said earlier, when you disconnect from who you are, and you disconnect, when I say who you are, I mean the source you, not the identity that you've constructed. When you disconnect from the source you, you're gonna grab onto something artificial, which was gonna leave you perpetually hungry. This is why so many Black women, especially the coded ones, are mean, are angry, are like ready to stab everybody in the neck and kill their kids because they're disconnected. So they actually think they're just mean. I was just born a mean devil bitch. Like, yeah, that's what happens when you withhold who you are and you inflict the cruelty of withholding who you actually are. So white people feel safe, so you keep your job because it is such a, do you see why you need to be in a room with people who can handle meanness? But you come to actually get to know who you are, not just because you want to fuck your meanness and keep your meanness. This is work. Like, this is serious. If you're going to stand in front of me, you will be held in responsibility. Otherwise, what are we doing? What are we doing? Just showing up just to, well, what are we doing? Did you read what's happening here? This is not cutesy cutesy. I want to share a bit about part of what has come through in me in the last maybe 3 weeks. How much pain Black men are in. So we've been talking about Black women, right? And our meanness, right? How cruel we are. Black men too. When a Black man disconnects from who he is to fit. So what that looks like is, for most of them, getting married. Most men get married because they're expecting to have access to regular coochie and to get a meal. They're not getting married because they actually want to get married. And they want to have kids, right? Some of them, right? And it gives them social clout. None of that has anything to do with who they actually are as coded beings. Okay, so when you're honest with yourself and you see yourself at essence level, in many ways you can see them too. So there's a complying. So think about you and when you comply in ways that you don't really want to comply, but to you, it's the way, right? It's the way that you look good and respectable and all the things that you're looking for when you are self-inflicting cruelty and you disconnect from who you are. And the level of, I just see so many. Remember that movie Antoine Fisher with Denzel and that dude? He's excellent. Y'all know his name? Y'all remember that movie, Antoine Fisher? And remember who he was? Like before he met Denzel and like the early parts of their relationship, he was grown. He was in, what was it, the military, I think, or something like that. He was grown, right? In age and in the military, but he was so hurting and his rage would come out in violent ways. And then he would, he met this woman that he would smile but he was still warring and you could see so much of the boy in him and so much of the movie was about him admitting the pain, admitting the inner war, admitting it all. And this is for us too, as women. Antoine Fisher was not about, the power that only Black man has, although you could do that in your head if you wanted to. But it was beginning to touch on it. You could see. And, oh, shit. Black men are raised by Black women. Black men are raised by Black women. You see what cruelty does? You see how it carries on? You see how it duplicates? when you disconnect from who you actually are, and then you hook into a self that comes out here and lives a hungry, artificial game. This is what's happening. You come out here and you live a hungry, artificial game. You fall into the roles that society makes for women. You fall into the roles society makes for men that we all know leave you, him, her, starved. And then we just duplicate cruelty, duplicate cruelty, duplicate cruelty, duplicate cruelty. Then we don't know how to be in relationship with each other, because when you're not honest here, you're not going to be honest with me. You're not going to be honest with him. You're not going to be honest with her. So what exactly are you talking about when you're in conversation with anybody? It's not going to be everyday Black people who are going to initiate the changing of the world. Everyday Black people want to look good and fit in well. They want to look like, right, just good people, wholesome people, whatever that idea is that they imagine makes them holy and whatever, right? So be it. When you cannot not, and you're truly coded this way, you are built to traverse this, what I'm talking about. And there are some exceptions of the ones who are living everyday lives. There are some exceptions there. Movements start with the crazy ones. They could be behind closed doors. They could be doing small things in public ways. It could look a number of ways, but it is not good people. When I say good, I mean the people who are trying to appear good. So they just become really good con artists. They're trying to appear good versus actually being good. Okay. And good is subjective. Do what you will with that. Good people are too concerned with, I don't want to be judged. I'm going to lose my job. I'm not going to be a good woman. I won't, for men who find their clout, some of them, through being married with kids or running through a bunch of women aimlessly, or, the different things men do to gain status and to, peacock their significance. Typically, these people are not the ones who engage in the work that would actually bring forth the power that we actually are. Who we actually are. And I don't mean in this romanticized king and queen. We just love to romanticize this stuff. It's just, as far as I know, as far as I've seen, we fight the power that we actually are. We banish the power that we actually are. We're suspicious of what we are. So I don't look to good Black people. I look to the crazy ones, the erotic ones, the ones who are living marginalized, weird lives, the ones who don't fit in, the ones who can't keep a job. A nervous system that can traverse the unknown. A couple things I'll say in closing are the Bigger Than You workshop is for those of you who have a call that's bigger than you and you want to do the alchemical work to come out of hiding. You can vet yourself at the link in my bio. Y'all take good care of yourselves.